Magandang hapon po sa lahat to our 11,000, already 11,099. Our warmest welcome to teachers and our students of around 30 DepEd divisions from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We also have registered participants, our kababayans from Indonesia, Japan, Africa, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Thailand, UAE, and USA. Also from Kyrgyzstan and Azerbaijan. And to our guest schools division superintendent, thank you for joining us in our first ever PLDT Infoteach webinar series, Gearing Up for the New Normal in Teaching and Learning, in partnership with UPOU or UP Open University. I'm Kat Diaz de Rivera, heading the Community Relations Division of PLDT, and I'll be your moderator for today. Very privileged, honestly, as I'm a parent of an incoming grade 5 schooler. So this webinar will be very, very beneficial for me and my fellow parents here online. For your appreciation, and I'm sure most of our listeners or viewers now are aware, PLDT and UPOU have a long-standing relationship since 2012. Through the PLDT InfoTeach outreach program, PLDT Infoteach has been the flagship educational program of PLDT for 16 years. It champions digital literacy by empowering public high school students and elementary and high school teachers coming from school-based and barangay-based levels to pursue lifelong digital learning. Launched in 2004, providing learning opportunities by upgrading cyber technology skills through internet basic IT education to high school students as well as elementary and high school teachers in partnership back then with Netopia. The PLDT InfoTeach outreach program has since produced over 30,000 student and out-of-school youth graduates coming from different partner schools nationwide. The PLDT InfoTeach outreach program is an ongoing commitment to promote digital lifelong learning. Amid this pandemic, we continue to empower you, our teachers, and students by providing digital capabilities in a way we hope that our webinar series will help pave the way for you, our teachers, my fellow parents, and students alike to traverse digital learning with the utmost confidence. We hope this helps you utilize online learning opportunities as well as digital solutions and tools. So, allow me to give you an overview of how our webinar series will look like. It's very exciting. At the same time, it'll be very insightful. We have organized our topic into 4 segments. First, of course, are for our teachers, then our learners, of course, our parents and guardians, and for everybody. We are privileged to have UPOU's Chancellor, Dr. Melinda Bandalaria, as our lead resource speaker, together with our schools division superintendents from selected schools who will provide their inputs and share practical tips to fellow teachers on how best to implement the blended learning system. There will be several topics that will be discussed, which is up and open for everybody to type in their questions, comments, and inputs place in ensuring that the education sector can transition to digital learning with ease. This special webinar session is included for partner LGUs as they share some of their best practices in preparation for the school year. Some friendly reminders lang po on the issuance of the certificates. As shown here on screen, you may scan the QR code or go to the bit.ly site indicated. The certificates will be automatically sent to those who completed their evaluation forms and were able to answer 7 out of 10 questions correctly. Also, kindly ensure to input the correct spelling of your name. Please don't forget to evaluate this event and answer the questions. The online evaluation form will start receiving responses right after this event and will be available within the next 6 hours. All right. So now that you have a grasp of what's in store today and in the incoming webinar sessions, and before I give the floor to our guest to share his thoughts about our second topic, for those who were able to join us in our first session last Tuesday, we started working on how we can present these new media and online tools in a digital setting. Today, we will be talking about how we can best create a dynamic online learning environment, one where students can be engaged as they study from home. Here with us online, who is already on standby, Dr. Romel Bautista, Schools Division Superintendent, CESU 5 Division from the Division of Cavite Province. Dr. Romel. So Dr. Romel, as or Doc or Mel, as mostly calls him. Hi, Dr. Romel. So while he's preparing, he had a master's degree in education, major in educational management from Marikina Institute of Science and Technology, Marikina City, a doctor of philosophy, major in educational management from the University of Rizal System, Morong Rizal. So since November 2019 to date, he's the school's division superintendent of our DepEd in Cavite province. So before that, he was an STS and ASDS from Rizal, Batangas, and Antipolo. So he's been around. He also is an awardee of the 2014 Gawad Sulo for Education Outstanding Rizaleño, recognized for exemplary performance as Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Director's Medallion of Excellence Award. Also awarded the 2008 Regional Initiated Literacy Search ALS Superintendent's Award for Loyalty, for professionalism and commitment to service. Recognized also for exemplary performance as Assistant Schools Division Superintendent Director's Medallion of Excellence Award. So, to share his thoughts and tips on how to engage your learners online, let's give our warm welcome to Dr. Romel C. Bautista. Naka, let's put the audio in unmute. Dr. Romel, I think you're oh there.
Ayan, yeah. Nalis ko na lang yung aking headset.
Good afternoon, Dr. Romel.
Yeah. Good afternoon. As I was saying, hello, good afternoon. Can I be heard now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yes. Good afternoon. As I was saying earlier, dealing with our learners as regards the use of digital technology. it is just peanut for them, as we all know that the learners nowadays are well adept with the use of the different gadgets that could be very useful in utilizing that can be very useful in the uh, learning processes in the new normal, as most of the school or some of the schools, the parents as well as the teachers and the learners themselves chose online digital learning as their modality of learning under the new normal. But uh, actually, the current concern is the capability, or there is a very limited percentage of learners, especially in Cavite, uh, a very limited percentage of learner that answered our survey last April, that they possess, or they have the laptop or the smart cell phone or even the smart TV that can be used in the said learning modality. That is why that is the challenge. However, uh, should the learning modality on online distance learning will be applied, uh, the learners, I think, will be more ready to face the challenges of the new normal in the education system. Uh, Aside from the challenge that the new normal pose, uh, the Department of Education ensures that there will be learning platforms that the learners could use. We have the Moodle, the Google Classroom, and other forms that can be used in the delivery of the teaching learning process under these new circumstances in the educational system. Uh, with regards to those things, the concerns is that not for the learners but for the tutors or the learning facilitators, especially that there are a lot of learning facilitators who are not well versed with the use of the technology and the application that will be utilized in the online digital learning modality. And so our schools division office has lined up several activities that will help in enabling the capabilities of our teachers to handle classes in the new normal. Ayun nga, we lined up trainings that can be used in the uh, new normal. If I may be permitted at least 5 minutes or more, I would like to share some of the initiatives that the Schools Division Office of Cavite has made in order to uh, combat the new normal.
Mm-mm. Go ahead, Dr. Romel.
So, I would like to share, nawawala ang ating,
Share screen na lang natin siya.
nakikita na ba? Hindi pa?
Um,
Not yet?
Not yet.
Ayaw mag-share screen. Yan, wala pa rin? Can you not see the screen? Not yet. Bakit ganon? Ayun pala.
Ayun.
Share screen. Wait. Share. And
Yes.
then, I the PowerPoint. Ayan. Uh, Nakikita na yung screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this has something to do with the choices of the modalities that our learners. Ayan. To date, we have 357,000 plus learners enrolled in the different in 323 schools in the division of Cavite. And you will notice that with regards to the learner's preference, ito yung preference nila na modular learning pa rin yung mas malaki ang choice na nasa 54%. And online learning is yung light green, which is 24%. May radio, may combination of face-to-face and other modalities, at saka yung television. So we can decipher that there is a need for enhancing the skills of the learner as well as the teachers in these modalities, especially the learning modalities on online learning. This is the distribution of the learners per grade level. Yan. Medyo marami kaming learners eh. Ayan, yung actual. And then, as of the sa latest performance, ito yung latest enrollment showed that, ayan, we have 355,985 learners actually enrolled in the different learning modalities. Ito yung school-based data. We use the school-based data. And we can see that 84.77% is chose printed modular, while other chose distance learning is 11.22%, plus the digitized modular ay 1.27%. If we will get the total of those who will be availing online distance learning, 49,000 or almost 50,000 of our learners will go to the online distance learning, and that is a bit concern. Yan yun, by distribution by the grade level.
Dr. Ramel, sorry to
Yep.
ilan po, sorry, yung printed or manual or offline learning?
84.77% of the 355,985, that will be 301,768 will
Oh, wow.
opted to use printed or modular learning,
Okay.
while we have almost, if we combine digitized modular and the online distance learning plus
Mm-mm.
the TB and some of the blended learners, we will be having at least 49,589 learners who will at least go to the online distance learning.
Opo. Thank you po. Sige po,
Yan
Dr.
yun.
Ramel. You may
Yeah.
continue.
So in that case, na after identifying those figure, as early as May, we started our different training programs for our teachers in order for them to be prepared for the to the modalities that will be used in the new normal. Because as Anade said that we cannot give what we do not have. If our teachers are not capable of using the online modalities or other modalities and the platforms for the new learning, they most probably will be a failure in the teaching learning process. So these are some of the training programs that we have conducted. We have at least 12,000 teachers in the province of Cavite, yung sakop, the ones that is catered by the provincial division. We have 12,000 teachers. And so they attended Office 365 Rebuild, transforming schools for the digital age, and then in other things. And then Uh, with regards to the training and orientation of the learners who will be using the online modalities, the schools will be taking charge as regards the orientation of the parents as well as the learners on how to use the modalities and the platform. So when August 24 comes, uh, the teacher are equipped and ready to orient the learners as well as their parents on how to use it. Uh, and even now, there are schools who are as early as this time are conducting the orientation to the parents and the learners as regards the modalities that will be implemented in the school. There are some schools that will be adopting multi-modalities because of the context of the schools. So the adoption of the learning modalities is basically based on the context of the school. There are places that signal for the internet connection is very poor, and so they opted to go to the printed module. There are fluctuating signals, and some of the learners opted to go online. So magkakaroon ng synchronous at saka asynchronous delivery of the learning modality. So these are some facts as regards the Learning Action Cell implementation program, where the school heads, the teachers, and the education program supervisors are trained on how to conduct Learning Action Cell uh, small time trainings, so that they're able to not just monitor the performance of the learner, but as well as the uh, instructional supervision can be done through this thing. So we have trained 329 school heads doon. So ito yung mga implementation phase niya. So, what are the challenges that we have met along the way? That could also be that could be also the possible threat dun sa new normal. So, we have poor internet connectivity resulting to participant being left behind dun sa mga training program. So, a poor internet connectivity will always be the concern. So, the online teaching or digital learning will also be affected, and the teaching learning process for the learners will also be affected. And then overlapping of some schedule from the central office to the regional office and then the division office per activity. Yeah. Unfamiliarity to online platform. This is what I'm talking about. Some of the teachers, a certain percentage of the teachers are not uh, adept in using the platforms such as Google or some other platforms such as the Moodle, and then itong ating ginagamit na Zoom or Meet or the MS Teams, they are not yet familiar. And then challenges is for the new school head. Because of the pandemic, some of our school heads opted to retire, even if they are not
Mm.
yet 65. Those who can avail the early retirement packages opted to retire. So we have to assign new school heads. Kaya they are being trained now. And then some technical problem, katulad kanina, nawala ang sound ko, nawala ang audio, so something like that. And then power interruption. Prior to our webinar today, early morning, may power interruption dito sa aming opisina. Mabuti na lang, it is restored. So, the response to the challenges is written in the other corner. Ito pa yung iba pang challenges sa mga modules, choosing the appropriate modality for the school. Actually, our regional director designed a structure on how that made us to do a decision making matrix on how modality will be chosen. Medyo mas scientific yung pagpili ng modality. Then pupils who chose blended learning modalities, bawal ang face-to-face. Face-to-face is not allowed. So, it's either modular or online para dun sa, in terms of blended learning modalities. And then parents were still hesitant to accomplish the enrollment form because of the health reason, security. They are afraid of the contamination that they that the learners may get should there will be face-to-face learning, and they are also thinking of the learning delivery. And then, so this has something to do with the uh, decision making trees on the modality. So napag tapusan na natin yung mga bagay na magano. Another concern is lack of technical men in the distribution of modules and gadget for online teaching. Uh, At this point, the school heads are tasked to coordinate and make a memorandum of agreement with the local government units, the barangay officers, and the general PTA, as well as the homeowners associations, as regards to the module distribution and the delivery of gadgets for online teaching, para so that the learning resources and materials will really reach the learners. And then funding sources on the reproduction of learning materials. The central office and the regional office downloaded a certain amount of funds in order to reproduce or to print the learning materials. The division office and the schools pledged portion of our MO in order to uh, uh, address the concern on the reproduction. We are lucky that our local government units, the provincial government and the municipal government helped us in the production. Some of them donated printing machine, some of them donated printing materials so that it will be used in the production of learning resources. Communication with parents and other stakeholders, yun din, if the place is really remote, it is very hard to reach the parents, and so coordination with the barangay officials is the only thing that we can do so that we'll be able to reach them. And then distribution and collection of learning materials, we designated places as our kiosks in order to distribute the learning materials. So those things. Nawala ang aking presentation. Wait a minute. And then, so these are some of the intervention, use of online platforms, Google Classroom, Google Meet for giving instruction and submission of outputs. So collaborative learning and solving of shared challenges, open and constant communication, consultation, and other things. And with strict reminder on compliance with the standards of the Department of Health and the interagency task force. Of course, we cannot go away with it. So these are some of the initiative as regards the implementation of our learning continuity plan. We prepared our learning continuity plan so that it will guide us on the things that we shall be adapting and we shall be doing in the up to the opening of classes and then up to the actual classes. And last week we have our dry run for the operationalization of the school learning continuity plan. And uh, I would like to share some of the
Dr.
videos.
Romel,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is it okay that if you could check, I think naka-share yata po yung view nyo po, yung hindi po naka-share yung pinaka-presentation file.
Okay.
We could see
Sorry.
actually your view.
Okay.
But we cannot see yung presentation mismo. Thank you po.
I thought it is shared na. Wait.
Yung Zoom po daw ang naka-share. after presenting the challenges, and
Yeah,
I'm sure,
that's the that is the last slide.
opo.
Challenges, and then some successful strategies intervention. So these are the interventions that we utilize. Yun nga, use of online platforms, and then collaborative learning and solving of shared challenges, open and constant communication, consultation. Yun yung ating ginagawa with the stakeholders via online or phone calls. And then implementation of our LCP. And then finally, yung as I was saying earlier, we have conducted a dry run of the LCP implementation at the school level, and hindi ma-share yung ano, siguro mamaya-maya na lang. So yun lang siguro muna. That will be it for the time being.
Okay po.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you din po, Dr. Romel. I'm sure our current listeners and viewers right now, marami po sa inyo nakaka-relate kasi marami pong mga insights, and Dr. Romel shared some points na made us aware na ganito po yung realities ng pag-prepare natin sa pagpasok nga ng mga bata. Kailangan lang natin, actually maganda na merong kung ano yung response, anong gagawin ng DepEd and the community surrounding that specific province that Dr. Romel is at. Later on, uh, our resource speaker will help us go through that on how to engage our learners or our teachers. Um, so to everyone, I'm sure you have some questions. You may send it through our UPOU Network's website chat box or through our UPOU Network's Facebook page, so we could raise them up later in our open forum. For our next speaker, Dr. Melinda de la Peña Bandalaria, a professor at the University of the Philippines Open University, which she also serves as its chancellor since 2016. She was the president of the Asian Association Open Universities from 2017 to 2019. Dr. Bandalaria chairs the Asian MOOC Steering Committee. She has been actively involved in developing course modules for open online courses and teaching in this mode of instruction for more than 20 years. She has been doing research on open online courses and on universal design for learning as integrated into OERs and online courses. Dr. Bandalaria has co-authored a number of journal articles and book chapters in the field, and has always been invited to keynote national as well as international conferences. An advocate of open education, she can be considered to have spearheaded the development and offering of MOOCs in the Philippines, and is used by higher education institutions in the country under the model MOOCs as OERs as one strategy to improve the quality of education. She has led the university's initiative #OpenFight against COVID to help the educational institutions in the country to transition from classroom instruction to remote teaching and learning to ensure that learning continues even during the time of COVID-19 pandemic. Now, relative again to our topic, to share with us further her insights on how to make your module delivery more engaging. Let's give a warm welcome and time, and let me give the floor to Dr. Melinda Bandelaria.
Thank you very much, Miss Kat. And I greet everyone. Good afternoon. For those who are not in the Philippines, I say good day wherever you are, whether it's morning or evening in your place of location right now. We thank you all for joining us in this afternoon session, our webinar, second webinar session with PLDT. I also thank our guest SDS, Dr. Romel Bautista, for sharing your preparations, how you are preparing, because
Yes.
the kind of sharing that you've done also gave us information on the other concerns that should be addressed at the level of operation. Something like we also need to know what's the real score, what's happening at the school level, the preparations at the school level, and the different concerns being encountered by our teachers, by our school officials, especially at the Department of Education. So this is our second session, and Miss Kat mentioned earlier that we at the University of the Philippines Open University, we offered the first massive open online course in 2013, and that first course was done with Smart PLDT. So it was also a record in our partnership with PLDT and Smart, having offered the first massive open online courses on Android apps development. So at this point, may I share my slides with you? So our topic for this afternoon is gearing up for the new normal. For our session 2 is engaging your students online. So of course, this is a big challenge for our teachers, especially if it's in an online classroom. It's already very difficult. How much more if your students are not with you? This session was prepared for online learning, but at the same time, as discussed earlier by Dr. Bautista, we also need to consider how we can engage our learners if they are not online. It was mentioned that almost 85% of their learners chose the printed modules for their mode of content. I mean, the instructional content. So if there will be no access or minimal access to the internet, how can we also ensure that we will be engaging our learners so that we can facilitate the learning process? So in the course of our discussion, we will also try to address that kind of concern by our teachers who will be doing this kind of instruction when the school opens this during the last week of August. So okay, so as I mentioned, it is difficult enough to keep your students engaged in a face-to-face classroom instruction. So what more if it's online? What more if the students are not with us in the classroom? So as I have presented in this picture, it was taken about 100, something like 60 years ago, this picture at the bottom, wherein the teacher and the students are inside the classroom, and yet um, some of them are not listening to the teachers doing the lecture or doing the teaching. And I think for us teachers, our teachers who are watching or joining us, who have joined us in this session, we are familiar with this. I mean, with this scenario in our classroom. So if they are not with us in the classroom, they are somewhere else. They are in their houses. They are in a library. They are in their chosen learning space. What can we do? What are the strategies that we can implement or we can develop so that we can somehow engage them and motivate them to learn the lesson? So what I will be discussing are just some tips and strategies on how we will be able to do this. Okay, so here research shows that students feel less engaged, and 10 to 20% in the remote mode of instruction, there is a 10 to 20% higher dropout rate if you will compare it to a classroom instruction or a face-to-face instruction. And among the reasons cited by the learners why they don't finish the course is that they feel lost. They don't know what to do. How am I going to proceed with this online instruction? They also feel disinterested. Parang wala lang kasi wala naman dito si ma'am or si sir na titingin dun sa ginagawa ko. So I need not do it. I lost interest, or they feel distance because they will be studying on their own, just like what we have shown in this picture. In this mode of instruction that we will be doing when the school opens this August, the students, our students, will be learning on their own. They will be far from you, or geographically, physically separated from you, and also from their classmates. And chances are they will do their studying in their respective homes. So there's no teacher who will be looking over their shoulder and try to see, are they doing their learning activities correctly. So what control, what can we do as teachers, so that we can somehow avoid these feelings among our students. So we have to connect more with our students, and we have to help our students connect with their classmates or their fellow learners. So how can we do that? Okay. So how to keep our students engaged in online mode of instructions? I have mentioned earlier, my focus here is online instruction, but let's try to also address some other strategies which we can implement if the students will not be online. So the number one tip is, let us rethink the lecture formats. Let us have shorter segments, 15 minutes or less. So if for those of you who are already designing your synchronous and asynchronous online sessions with your students, and if you are planning to do online lectures for about an hour, forget it. Divide your lecture, your asynchronous session, or your synchronous sessions into smaller segments. So something like 10, 15 minutes for each session. Or if it is really necessary for you to do that long online lecture, have breakers. So something like, you can engage your learner, you can do a poll, you can ask them to volunteer also and share their own insights about the topic being discussed or the lesson being discussed. Have them as your active audience, as a way of cutting your lecture into smaller segments. So this is the recommendation: 15 minutes or less. In our case, we try to do it something like 10 minutes, so that that's the probably the length of time that we can keep their attention listening to us. So break them into smaller segments, have them actively engage in your lecture by asking them to participate in the discussion poll, or they will themselves talk about their own insights about the lesson. The number two tip is building a sense of community. I have mentioned earlier that since our students are separated from us and their fellow learners, their classmates, they may feel isolated. So what we always say, yes, they may be isolated, but let us make sure that they are still connected with us and connected with their classmates. So let us try to make the learning social. So some of the tips here in terms of building the sense of community are the following. So have a short video to introduce yourself and welcome your students. So the introduction can be a video. You can easily record a video welcoming your students, introducing yourself, and somehow that kind of video, a welcome video, will set the tone on what kind of discussion will ensue when you meet your classes online. So just a short video to welcome your students and introduce yourself. Get to know your students. Have them have a forum wherein they will introduce themselves. So you will get to know them, and they will also get to know their classmates, because they will be introducing themselves. So in a way, they will also know who their classmates are, and they can start that. They can have that forum, self-introduction forum, as a way to also make friends with their classmates. Kasi normal naman, it's a normal occurrence, it's a normal phenomenon in a face-to-face classes, wherein you will find your friend, new friends, or former friends or former classmates. So it's also a way of connecting our students to their classmates. And in some, based on our experience, even if we will just be asking for a text or text introduction, something like you encode your introduction, your name, etc., etc. Some of our students also do video introduction. So if they will see their teachers doing video introduction, chances are they will also try doing it. And as our SDS mentioned earlier, our students are techie, they are tech savvy. And chances are it's very easy for them. Mga nagti-TikTok yung mga yan eh. So it will be easy for them to do a video introduction of themselves. baka mas maganda pa, probably they will even do it better than us because they really have mastered the art of using the technology. Of course, we also need to give time and space for our students to connect and socialize with their fellow learners or with their classmates. In my classes, although I'm handling master's students, doctoral students, I always have a virtual coffee shop, an e-copyhan in my online classes, wherein students can chat, can socialize, can make some discussions with their classmates, discussions that are not related to the lesson. So we give them that kind of time and space for them to also interact with their classmates. Um, Another tip is we translate the physical supports like the bulletin boards that celebrate student work to the virtual space. So if we been used to, like for instance, we gave an exam and we want to announce the top rankers, then we can also have a bulletin board in our online class to also celebrate or give recognition to the good works done by our learners. So you can even have digital exhibits. If you're teaching art classes or courses, then you can have the digital exhibits of the work done by your students. So that will also be a form of celebrating the achievements of your students. um our students are the digital natives. I mean, they are social media people. So let us tap the potential of social media like the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so that they can also connect with each other. And in so doing, if they are connected to their with their class to their classmates, so they will also know what's happening in the class. And chances are they will be talking about classes, they will be talking about their assignments, etc., etc. And in a way, we are keeping them engaged in discussing the lesson. And we can also somehow, in a way, monitor them even through the Facebook page, through their friends, etc., on what is happening to some of our students if they are lagging behind in their schedule and deadlines. So sharing of class activities can also be done using the Facebook or the social media pages. So, I mean, for some teachers, they're saying that probably we cannot use social media or Facebook, but in this case, because our students are already, chances are they are already on Facebook, let us tap the potential of social media, especially Facebook, so that our learners will stay connected with us and with their classmates. Another tip is let us give our students the sense of ownership and control. Something like they can choose what kind of activity, what kind of project they will be doing. So we give them options. We try to translate it or to connect it with their specific context so that they will be able to choose how they will do a specific project. Of course, this particular tip calls upon the creativity of the teacher. So like for instance, when we give a specific learning activity to our students, our first or primary consideration is why are we giving this kind of activity to our students? So what learning outcomes or learning objectives do we hope to achieve if we give this kind of learning activity to our students? In so doing, we will be able to create different projects with the same learning outcomes and somehow contextualize them to the situation of our students, because they will feel more engaged and more interested if they will be able to choose what kind of activity I will do, but we teachers will be able to design them in such a way that they will be achieving the same learning outcome. So walang maiiwan. Whether our students are online, they are connecting with us online, or they are accessing the materials which are non-digital or offline materials, if we design activities with the learning outcomes in mind and depending on the context of our students, then the same learning outcomes will be achieved by our students. So walang maiiwan when it comes to the learning process. Another tip here is let's plan for delivery diversity. We can invite experts or resource persons like a community leader, an expert in the field, subject matter that we are teaching, and it is very easy to do this in an online class, just like what we have now. I mean, we are located different parts of the country. We have even participants outside the Philippines, and it is so easy for us to come together in this digital platform, connect with each other, and I can even deliver my lecture from the comfort of my home. I mean, I don't need to travel, just so that I can give this lecture to every one of you. Something like 11,000, if I got it correctly, 11,000 webinar participants. If we are in a physical space, like a lecture hall or something like that, it it may be even impossible for us to connect this number of viewers that we have now, and located in different countries. So it is also the same for our online class. I mean, we can even invite an expert who is based outside the country and do a lecture in our class. So in so doing, we are already providing some kind of diversity in how we are doing our classes. Instead of something like we give assignments also at our students to interview community leaders, we can also bring them inside our classroom. So hindi lang tayo lagi yung papakinggan noong ating mga estudyante, and probably our resource person will be able to impart more practical tips, more practical experiences, where our students can relate to, in terms of learning the lesson that we are trying to teach them. Another tip is be a storyteller. Start your lesson with a story. And I think many of us are also doing this in our face-to-face classroom. We can start with our story. In fact, it is not just our story. We can also ask our learners to share their own stories. Diba? And in so doing, we ask them to participate. So like for instance, we ask one or two of our students to share their stories. Halimbawa, ano ba yung pagpasok natin ngayong when we start our classes this August, one of the activities that we can ask them, okay, so how is COVID cases in your country? Have you experienced a COVID scare, something like that? So we can ask them to tell their stories and relate that to the lesson that we have planned to discuss. So we ask them to participate. We engage them to talk as well, and not just to listen to what we have to say in our classes. We can even ask them to video themselves, their own stories, and post it in our online classroom. So involve your students, let them talk, let them share, let them do some work, and share those works with their fellow students. Again, with the consideration that what we are asking them to do will help them achieve the learning outcomes that we have set for the lesson and for our course. Okay. Regularly update your course content. Sometimes, even in our classroom instruction, sometimes the materials that we are using, we have prepared them a long, long time ago. If we've been handling the course for many years, then sometimes we just reuse and reuse and reuse. It is also important that what we are discussing should be related to current issues and concerns. So like for instance, in this case, we are in this kind or in this mode of instruction. We were somehow forced to be online because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So are there lessons which we can discuss in relation to COVID-19 pandemic? So, like in my courses, in the courses that I'm handling, I'm teaching communication courses. So I'm asking my students, look at how the news, the kind of news that we are receiving every day via television, radio, if they are still listening to the radio, what kind of news are we receiving? And what kind of feeling is being generated on us when we hear those news? So and then somehow I will relate that kind of discussion to the lesson that I am planning to discuss with them. So Number five tip is encourage accountability. We have to emphasize in the same way that we are emphasizing this on our students in a classroom instruction, that they have specific responsibilities in the whole teaching and learning process. It is not the responsibility of the teacher alone for them to learn. They also have their own responsibilities so that so that the learning process will be facilitated. So like in the classroom instruction, we give our students assignments, we give them projects, we ask them to study their lessons, and they have to do those kinds of tasks, those assignments, so that they will be able to contribute or do their share, their responsibility in the teaching learning process. So this is something that we also need to emphasize in the online instruction or in remote instruction wherein they are not with us. So we have to emphasize, we have to tell them, you have your own responsibilities. So when we say we have a synchronous lecture, online session, be sure that you will be present in those sessions. If you will not be present in those sessions because of some conflict, etc., then make sure that you will watch the recorded session. So we are giving them the flexibility, but at the same time, we are also emphasizing that they have their own share of responsibilities so that they will pass the course and at the same time enjoy the learning process. Another tip is let us help our students feel that they can succeed. We have to remember that if it's first time for us, then it is also the first time for our students to undertake this kind of learning process. They may probably be able to relate. I mean, reading some books, something online. Uh, but in this case, really being enrolled in a course, having to take assessment or exams, submit assignments, participate in the discussions, probably it will be a first time for many of them, if not all of them. So let us assure them. Let us assure them that this is something that they will be able to learn. This is something that they will be able to really have a control of, and this is something that they can master and even probably enjoy the whole experience. Because as we know, they are techie people. I mean, these young people, mga ano yung mga yan eh, sanay sila sa mga gadgets, sanay sila manood ng video, sanay sila to interact, makipag-chat, di ba, mag-email, etc. Sanay sila dyan. So we will just have to tweak the experience such that it will now be a focus on the learning process, and the different types of interaction which they need to do in this mode of learning, so that yun makapasa sila kasi pare-pareho naman yung gusto natin mangyari eh, that they will be able to pass the course and proceed to the next level of their schooling. So let us make them feel that they will be able to do it and even enjoy the whole process. Okay. Reward and celebrate success. I have mentioned it somehow earlier. We have to somehow recognize the good works of our students. So in some cases, they implement this open badge system that if you were able to accomplish something, then you will be given a digital badge by your teacher. Parang yung sa mga pre-LM yata yon, yung mga kinder, ganyan, lalagyan ka ng stars, di ba? We can also do something like that, wherein we recognize kung natapos niya na itong assignment na to, mataas ang nakuha niya, then let us give a badge or a system of recognition to those accomplishments and success by our students, especially kapag mga bata yan, so that they will be more excited and they will try to do more. It will probably be just a game to them. So make it fun for our students to accomplish the learning activities that we are asking them to do. Again, let's go back to the principle, yung binibigyan natin ng reward ang mga nagpe-perform ng maganda. So it will somehow encourage our learners to perform better in our learning activities. So let us try to balance that kind of strategy. Uh, Tip number 8, communicate in multiple formats. So nakalagay dito, we can communicate through email, phone call, also chat. If that is something that we can also connect with our students. So email is something like a formal communication with them, phone call, or even a text message. Something like, hey, I've noted that you are not you're behind in the submission of your assignment. May I know what's happening? Do you have problems? Do you need an extension, etc., etc.? So are there lessons that you can't understand, or you need some assistance in terms of some explanation? Then we communicate, but at the same time we have to be clear and creative in our communication. We have to be sensitive to the possible situation that our students are in. Hindi rin natin alam kung ano ang kanilang pinagdadaanan sa kasalukuyan. Especially now, ang bilis ng pagtaas ng COVID cases natin. We don't know if our students are affected. We don't know if the family of our students are affected, and if they are somehow stressed, 'di ba? I mean, somehow, lalo yung mga bata, probably they really couldn't understand clearly what is happening now. And they couldn't understand why they couldn't leave their houses. Mas masakit pa kung yung mismong pamilya nila ay talagang directly affected. 'Di ba? So they may probably be undergoing some problems which affect their participation in your online class. So for us teachers, and I think this is something naman that is not new to us teachers in terms of really understanding the kind of situation of our students. Ano yan eh, I'm not so sure, but I consider it as a second nature among teachers for us to extend that kind of understanding to our students and be able to be more flexible in terms of understanding and helping our students overcome whatever challenges and difficulties they may be facing, especially now that we are in this COVID-19 pandemic. So let us try to give it to our students, the kind of flexibility, the kind of understanding. And when we communicate with them, let us also try to make them feel that we are there. They just need to tell us. They have to tell us what's happening to them. So if I may give an example, so at this point in time, we at the UP Open University, we are yung mga naghahabol ng mga graduate. We are at that stage, yung mga naghahabol nag-graduate for second semester. So uh, uh, those students who are doing their thesis defense, dissertation defense, revisions, etc., etc. So I gave my comments to one of my advisees. I gave the comments and I said, okay, and then I gave a schedule. So I'm giving you 1 week to revise your manuscript based on my comments, and then let us schedule your final defense on this, so that we will be able to meet the deadline. So that's the email that I sent to my advisee. 1 week had passed, 2 weeks had passed. I haven't heard anything from him. So I emailed again. I said, "Hey, uh, 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 do you need further discussion about my comments?" Kasi baka hindi niya naintindihan yung mga comments ko. Sinulat ko lang kasi, ano. Do you need further discussion on my comments sa manuscript mo? And then that's the only time that he replied and said, "Ma'am, I'm undergoing a very difficult time because my 3-year-old son died." So parang, ha? Parang, sabi ko ba, ako yung medyo na kaya pala hindi ako nakakarinig sa kanya ng kahit ano, medyo nagwo-worry na ako doon sa kanyang schedule. So yun yung ibinigay niya sagot sa akin. So yun, nung narinig ko yung malaman ko yung situation niya, I said, okay, so I'm giving you the time. I'm giving you the time that you need. Sabi kong gano'n, just let me know if you are ready to discuss my comments, sabi kong ganyan, then just send an email to me. So may mga ganung pangyayari na since our students are not, we are not meeting them regularly, may mga bagay na nangyayari sa kanila na hindi natin alam, and we may need to communicate with them. If we realize, if we see that they are not meeting the deadlines or the schedule that we gave them. Provide active learning opportunities. So yun yung number 9 na tip. Nakalagay dito, give them learning activities away from the computer. So, yes, it is an online learning, but it doesn't mean that all their activities will have to be done online. All their activities will have to be that they will have to be always in front of their computers. Learning activities can be done something like, okay, o mag-interview ka dyan, o gawin mo tong experiment na to, di ba? So, but those activities, learning activities will keep them engaged, ask them to record their observation, ask them to make some observations sa kanilang community, sa kanilang pamilya, sa kanilang whatever, part of the home, etc. Pwede nating ipagawa yon, but not necessarily na lagi silang nakatutok doon sa kanilang online class. And again, when we ask them to do learning activities, then we have to make sure that they are accomplishing something when it comes to our learning outcomes. Provide timely and useful feedback. We always have to give the kind of feedback to our students. So, nag-submit sila ng project, for instance, then let's, even if it is just to acknowledge their submission, let us acknowledge their submission. Something like, good job, you have submitted your work earlier than the deadline, or you just submitted on time. Please wait for 1 or 2 days so that I can give you my feedback and my evaluation to the work that you've been doing. Kung kakayanin nga natin ang maggawa ng mga automated quizzes, if we are using a learning management system with that feature of being able to do an automated quiz, gawin natin para hindi natin kailangan checkan. 'Di ba? The students will be able to know, ay, bagsak ako dun sa quiz kasi immediate ang feedback sa estudyante. I mean, hindi na tayo kailangang magde-devote ng oras na titingnan natin at checkan individually ang quizzes ng mga estudyante. But since the quiz is automated, malalaman kaagad, the student will be able to know immediately after taking the quiz whether tama ba or mali ang naging sagot niya. And that will prompt the student to probably study or review the lesson para sa susunod niyang pagkuha. If we are going to give the student 2 chances to take the test, o edi mag-aaral siya uli and then kukuha siya ng test. Ang technique dyan, nire-reshuffle yung questions para hindi yung same question yung kanilang kukuhanin pagka nag-take uli sila ng quiz. So may mga technique na ganun. And then we continue to engage them. And then pag sinabi natin na, okay, you will only have 2 chances to take the quiz. Pag hindi ka pa pumasa dito, baka mahirapan ka nang ipasa yung kurso. So may mga ganun tayong ibibigay sa kanila. And then marirealize nila, uy, nire-reshuffle pala yung mga exam questions, hindi pala ako pwede manghula when I take the quiz again. Okay, so again, add interactive activities. This is somehow related to what I have discussed earlier. Dito, ang inaano rin natin is if we can engage them. I mentioned earlier, engage them while we are doing synchronous sessions. Nakalagay dito, polls, fill in the blank activities, short quizzes. If you are using Google Classroom, then there are also these features wherein you can provide this kind of activities to your students. Or have students draw a picture to show their learning. So, ipa-drawing mo sa kanila, ano ba yung, i-drawing mo nga kung anong yung tutunan mo dito sa lesson. And then, pwede nilang gawin yun na kung sila may smart phone, kuhanin ng picture at ipadala or isubmit doon sa online class natin, di ba? Yung sa learning management system. So, pwede rin ganun. So, somehow, it will also ask or demand the creativity of our students and will somehow engage them to think critically. Pag sinabi mo sa kanila, pinag-aralan natin itong lesson na to, can you illustrate what you had learned from this particular discussion? Also, another thing is we can ask them to work in group or in pairs. It's not because they are not meeting face-to-face or in a class. It will no longer be possible for us to ask them to work together. We can ask them to work in pair or work as a group. in completing a particular class project, because they sanay na sanay yung mga yan. They can chat, they can do a Skype call or even messenger call, 'di ba? So that they can discuss itong mga activities that they need to work and complete as a group. So there are many activities, and in so doing also we are facilitating their engagement in doing the activities. So kung grupo-grupo yan, we are even encouraging them to be friends with their classmates. Ano na yan, magkaka-chat na yung mga yan when we ask them to work together on specific projects. Ako, I always ask my students to work together. I mean, there will always be a project, a course project, wherein they will be grouped, and then there is a project which they will have to select themselves. Hindi ako magsasabi sa kanila kung anong gagawin nila, but they will have to select, they will have to brainstorm among themselves what kind of project they will implement. May mga guidelines lang ako ibibigay sa kanila, but in terms of how they will do it, what will be their topic, etc., etc. And I really don't care wherever they are, wherever their location is, I will be asking them to work together online and put together their project as a course requirement in my class. Okay, so these are some of the examples of the learning activities. So like for instance, action planning, and these are the reasons for using them. So audiovisual presentations motivate learners, they can illustrate the concept, brainstorming among themselves. There are also platforms, or even you can ask them to do it on their own, that you give them some topics to brainstorm and make them present what they had discussed about the particular topics. So may class presentation din sila. Case studies, debates, something that we can also do online synchronously. Sila mismo yung nagsasalita. But they need to prepare bago sila pumunta doon sa ating online class. Demonstration, sila yung magde-demonstrate. Naka-video din sila in a situation like this. And we will be asking them to do it together. Discussion groups, same thing. We will give them some issues to discuss, and they will be presenting the outcome of their discussion to the class. So one of them or two of the members of the group should be able to do the presentation online. Exercises, it doesn't mean na sila ay online, hindi na natin ito magagawa. We can also ask them to do it. Icebreakers, ito very, very ano to, kasi ang nakalagay nga dito, it enables our students to have an online voice. Sila yung pagawin natin. As we ask them to think of something which will be our starter for the class. Something like that. So in a way, they will be excited, they will be collaborating with each other, they will be thinking on how they will do it. Problem-based learning, relate it to what's happening. Project groups, I have mentioned that already. Quizzes, I have mentioned that. Reflective practice, we ask them to write essays, is one strategy to do it. Or role playing, we ask them to solve a particular issue when they assume different roles. I mean, from the perspective of different actors or players. Simulations, real life situation, we can give them again a case, and then which is a real life situation, and we ask them to go through the whole experience, assume a persona in a real life situation, and share to the rest of the class the whole experience. Team building activities, there something can also be done as a group. I have mentioned the virtual guest speaker. Yung visit is something that if you can already do this virtual reality, may mga ganyan na rin po online. So we ask them to also do something like this, or engage in a virtual reality app. Work-based project, we also give them some kind of a real project to work on, probably as an individual learner or as a group of learner. More examples, sort it out. Ito may mga iba-ibang examples. So like, sort it out challenges students to think about how key concepts in a unit, lesson, or chapter relate to one another. So students can work together or in pairs. They draw in a Google drawing, so very ano rito. But they can also use other software. So ito may mga example na nakalagay dito kung paano gagawin itong activity nito. So the directions ask the students to combine text and visual media to show the relationship between concepts. So in a way, they have to understand the concepts that are being discussed in the lesson. So meron silang gagamitin na template. Expert group investigation, teachers can group 4 to 5 students and ask them to spend some of their online learning time investigating a specific topic or concept. So dito, merong again assignment na ibinigay sa kanila, and they need to research on this online. Kailangan nilang i-present yung kanilang natutunan using text or even the visual media and present this in their online class. Collaborative annotations, ayan, meron din yan. So may bibigay din tayo sa kanila na document, for instance, and we ask the students to annotate the shared document. Kailangang i-discuss nila kung ano ang mga nakalagay doon sa document na ibinigay. And they have to work, they have to agree. They have to agree to the kind of explanation that they will have to put in the Google Doc that they are to present or to submit to the students. And here, they have to really do work outside of the online class. I think the young people will enjoy this, Spotify playlist. So like for instance, at the end of a chapter or unit, you challenge your students to work together to identify the main ideas, concepts, or themes dun sa lesson na pinag-aralan, and then ask them to create a Spotify playlist. So the goal is to use music, so something most kids enjoy, to inspire them to think more deeply about the ideas. Ano ba yung music o ano ba yung kanta na related dun sa ideas, concepts, or themes covered in the lesson or in the module. So we give them some things that they will enjoy doing, they can relate to, and something that they've been doing probably, but this time it has to be related to the lesson that we have discussed in the class. So we are again keeping them engaged, we are keeping them motivated, and we are also giving them reasons to enjoy what they are doing. Kumbaga hindi nila sabihin napaka-boring naman yan, ganyan. Siguro may magsabi napaka-KJ naman ni ma'am o ni sir, parang ganyan. Pero chances are they will also enjoy doing it, especially kung graded yung mga pinapagawa natin sa kanila, di ba? Okay, scavenger hunt, encourage the students to do a close read of a text or do an informal research to answer the question. So dito meron ding mga questions na ginawa ang teacher, tapos hahanapin and i-explain noong estudyante yung mga inilagay na items nung teacher. So we also give this template to our students. So identify relevant information that the students will need to know while making the experience of finding that information engaging and fun. Kasi they will have to do online research. But in the process, they will have to understand ano ba yung nire-research ko. Diba? So, ipinacilitate na natin yung learning process nila. And then, in-research nila, we have to note that in doing these activities, we are also facilitating the learning of some digital skills ng mga estudyante natin, especially when it comes to scrutinizing or evaluating resources from the internet, the media literacy, media information literacy, something, and even the digital skills, something that we are also facilitating in asking our students to do these learning activities. Online discussion, of course, we know that already, discussion forum, engage the students and drive higher order thinking, something that we want them to have as well or to develop as well. Meron ding suggestions dito. Flipgrid videos can be used. We ask the students to develop video materials. Flipgrid is an open source software. Hindi nila kailangan gumastos, but of course, again, it will require access to the internet because they have to download the app. I have discussed this in our webinar series number 1, but I want to emphasize these different types of interaction. The learner content, example activities, and the useful tools, the learner-learner interaction, and of course, the learner-teacher interaction. When we design these different types of interaction in our courses, learner content, we ask them to read, we ask them to view the video materials, and then we ask them to undertake a learning activity. Learner, the discussions, the collaboration, the collaborative work, and the learner-teacher interaction, and these are the examples, then we are also keeping our students engaged. So the challenge now for the teachers is how can we now design all these learning activities, which one to pick? Again, the learning outcomes will be our guide. Ano ba yung gusto nating matutunan nila? Is it just a recall of the concept? Or is it in the higher order thinking that they will be able to apply the concepts that they have learned? Then probably mga project na yung papagawa natin sa kanila. Or papa-analyze na tayo sa kanila ng mga real life situation. Diba? So, we design, we create the activities that will make our students engage, be motivated, enjoy the whole process, and also hindi naman sila nakadikit lang doon sa kanilang mga computers. So I think this is my last slide. Okay, so important things to consider. When we design our courses, of course we have to think what are the learning goals? When we think of the activities, what are the learning goals? What will keep them engaged? What will keep our students wake up every day and say, I will access my course online because I enjoy doing it. So yun yung feeling that we should prove. I mean, we should try to achieve among our students, that they will always welcome that opportunity, or they will always look forward to accessing their course site. Hanapin nila, uy, may sumagot na kaya doon sa post ko, uy, nagbigay na kaya ng feedback si ma'am or si sir doon sa sinubmit ko na project, uy, baka mamaya ngayon daw i-announce or ngayon daw ilalabas yung digital exhibit ng mga ginawa namin, ng mga isinubmit namin, ng mga video materials. So i-access ko na. So let's try to get that, to have that kind of feeling among our students, so we can keep them engaged. They will always welcome every activity and every session that we will have with them, and in the process they will enjoy the learning journey, and even embrace the online learning mode of instructional delivery. So we keep the students connected, not only to us, but to their classmates. We prevent them from dropping from the course or from the subject that we are teaching, because they are motivated, they are doing the activities because they are enjoying doing it. And at the same time, we are somehow facilitating their course completion. Yung hindi sila magdadrop, may papasa nila, o kung hindi man pasa lang, kailangan mag-aspire din sila na mataas din yung kanilang makukuha. So kung yun yung ating, these are the same goals that we try in doing the classroom teaching. So we just translate these goals, these aspirations for our students in the online classroom. Gusto natin makapasa lahat ng estudyante natin, gusto natin ma-engage lahat ng estudyante natin. So let's bring that kind of culture, let's bring that kind of teaching into our online instruction. So I guess, yeah. So thank you very much for listening. We can further discuss, or you can even share your own experience, your own insights about keeping the students engaged in this mode of instruction. So maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mel, for that very, very insightful presentation. I'd like to acknowledge our additional participants who just joined us a while ago. I think at around 717. So we're close at who joined us. It's actually 11,717. So we closed it around 3 p.m. So every time that we have a webinar series, we give an allowance for an hour for the registration. Yung mga humahabol po, pwede pa po kayong mag-join. So, maraming salamat po sa mga participants na nakikinig ngayon. I'm sure marami po kayong natutuhan. Dr. Mel, Dr. Romel, uh, can we see you again here online, on screen? Dr. Romel? Dr. Mel, nakikita ko na po. So we could open our discussion na po. Because we already have a few questions. All right. So, ito po. Madali lang naman siya. Which is more appropriate. While I was actually reading this, applicable din to sa, hindi lang sa teachers, parents din, and of course our learners here online. So feel free to ask again or make a comment, which is more appropriate to help or to guide students feel that they can succeed. So which step there would be more appropriate sa online learning? Is it to help them or just to guide them?
It's the feeling that we want to cultivate, 'di ba? Yung kailangang maramdaman that the students have to feel that they can succeed. So ang sa akin is help them feel that way also. Parang ano ba yung word na ginamit ko? But the important thing is it's the kind of feeling that we will cultivate among our students. That they will feel na it may be first time for
Not
them.
forced.
Oo,
Oh,
not
pilit.
forced. Hindi kasi hindi natin sila tatakutin. Kailangan ibigay natin sa kanila na it's a word of encouragement. Siguro mas ano yun. It's a word of encouragement that this is something that they will be able to do. Ganon. Kasi nga, may ano yan may mga apprehensions yan may anxiety yung mga yan. Online learning, paano ko to gagawin? Yun nga kaharap ko si teacher, hindi ko maintindihan yung lesson what more kung hindi ko na siya kaharap. So may anxiety yung mga estudyante natin. So what can make our students feel that they will be able to do it? And they can succeed in online learning. So yun yung itutulong natin sa kanila. If you feel that the word guide is more appropriate, so be it. I have no problem with that as long as we will achieve the same kind of feeling, the same objective on how we can make our students succeed or feel that they can succeed in this mode of instruction.
All right. Dr. Romel?
Outcomes pa rin yung titingnan natin, yung goal natin. Ano ba yung gusto nating ibigay sa kanila? Ganon.
At the end of the day, correct. All right.
Yeah, Kat.
Yes. Dr. Mel, do you have do you want to comment on that question?
Yeah. I saw the question. We considered two factors for the decision making in the modalities to be adopted by school. Two factors in terms of the learners, especially in the basic education. Nasa basic education kasi ako. So, ang unang factor ay yung accessibility of learners. And then the other one is the family involvement and support. Dun sa accessibility, the emerging modality is accessible to the learners. The internet connectivity, the availability of equipment such as laptop or smart cell phone or smart TV, o kaya yung radio-based instruction. And then, kung available naman siya, capable ba sila yung bata talaga na mag-online? with regards to the parents' involvement, kaya ba or can the parents act as facilitator should the chosen modality is online learning? How capable are the parents? So nag-survey din kami doon, lumabas sa survey kung ano yung mga pinag-aralan ng parents, anong hanap buhay nila, may trabaho ba sila, makakatulong ba sila in times na may katanungan yung mga bata. So, yun yung mga factors na i-consider namin, yung accessibility to the learners and the learners itself, and then yung parents' involvement and community support. Should the parents are not available, who among the community within the residence area can assist the learners?
All right.
So that's
Yeah.
something to do for learners factor. Meron pa ako, may na-consider din namin yung school factor. Kasi nga, public school, most most ang aming kinikater. So na-consider din namin yung school factors. So ano yung magiging mga kasama naman sa school factors? Tatlo naman siya. We have school operation management, school logistic management, and school supply management. So yung mga halimbawa, ang pinili ng mga karamihan sa mga bata, ang pinili ay online, halimbawa. For example, they chose online distance learning. So, is it doable in terms of school operation?
Mhm.
Kaya ba ng school? May ba ang school? Ang school ba ay mayroong internet? Ang school ba ay kayang mag-provide ng pondo para sa internet connectivity? Ang school ba ay equipped with laptop or desktop that can be utilized in the online distance learning? And then, kung hindi naman kaya, ano yung options na available para sa school na yung kakayanin nila? Okay, so yun. Teachers, school operation factors at saka learners factors. Thank you.
Okay. For the appreciation of our listeners and viewers, Dr. Mel actually answered the question of Mr. Eric Pajarito. The question was, what are the ways that we can ensure that schools, especially HEIs, get adequate guidance on the appropriate modalities? So, Dr. Mel, would you have any additional comments on that question? Or I guess Dr. Romel already answered that.
In the context of our basic education, and I agree. I agree with the suggested mechanisms kasi hindi school lang eh. And it has to be an institutional decision as well. I mean, when you look at the different modalities, when you talk of different modalities, it's not for the teacher alone to decide. It has to be an institutional decision because whatever modality that you will choose for your learners, there has to be the institutional support. Hindi pwedeng lalo ngayon, especially now it has to be an institutional decision. Kung anumang modality yung pipiliin. Katulad nga nun, I mean, Sir Romel shared earlier yung survey na ginawa nila. So kitang-kita nila, majority of the students are into this mode of, I mean, this is the kind of materials probably that they will be accessing. Ganun. So, kailangan ang magpo-provide. So, institution yung nagmo-move na maibigay ito doon sa mga learners kasi ito yung sinabi nila na kailangan nila. So, hindi lang teacher ang magde-decide. As tayo teachers, what we need to work on is how we can design our courses considering na sinabi ng mga estudyante natin ay ito po yung modalities na gusto namin. Diba? So, sabi nila, offline kami. Gaano ka offline? Talaga bang walang-wala? Talaga bang walang-wala kayong access sa internet? O meron naman konti, 'di ba? Ano may konti. Baka yung mga learning activities pwede nating gawin. Baka pwede pa rin kayo mag-online quizzes. Pero yung mga materyales ninyo ay pwedeng ibigay sa inyo ng printed para hindi niyo na i-download sa internet. So pwedeng ganon. So it's us teachers who need to make the design of the courses appropriate doon sa konteksto ng estudyante natin. And in the case of Cavite Province nga, ito na sinurvey nila, sabi ng mga estudyante, ito kami. Ito yung preference namin. Ito yung konteksto namin. So tayo ngayon mga teachers, i-design natin ngayon yung mga learning activities para talagang matutuhan nila at hindi pwedeng sabihin na kung walang access sa internet, disadvantage yung estudyante. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Kung mo hindi makaka-access sa internet, maiiwan at mapag-iiwanan noong may mga access sa internet. No, because there are mechanisms.
Yes.
But the challenge is for us teachers to make sure that that will happen. Yung pantay-pantay yung matututunan when it comes to learning outcomes.
Agree. All right. More question here. There are students who are lurkers or those who are scene zoners. Scene zoners. Because they are basically shy and or are not confident to share in class because of fear that they may be ridiculed. How do we handle them?
Yung actually hindi mo talaga maalis yung mga yon.
Mm.
Kasi kahit nga sa classroom, 'di ba? Kahit
Mm-mm.
sa classroom, meron kang shy, ayaw magsalita, natatakot, 'di ba?
Mm-mm.
In fact, ang observation namin, mas nabibigyan ng space kapag ka online. Kasi they have the time to compose yung kanila ipopost, for
Mm.
instance. Diba? Halimbawa, magpo-post sila, discussion forum. May tanong si teacher, then kailangang sagutin nila, di ba? Meron silang time na sulatin, tingnan, tama ba grammar ko? Tama ba yung sasabihin ko? Bago nila i-post. They have that kind of flexibility. They have that kind of space and time. Unlike in a classroom. So, kung paano ma-prevent yun, una, we have to be, i-set natin yung atmosphere, yung ambience ng kurso natin. That this is an academic discussion. Ganyan yung inaano namin. This is, you can, kahit nga doon sa masteral courses ko, if you feel comfortable talking in Filipino, talk in Filipino. Sabi ko lang, wag lang sa dialect kasi Filipino at English lang po ang kaya ko. So mag-Google Translate pa ako para maintindihan ko. We will do it in a different dialect or language, diba? So may ganon. And then, if it's an academic discussion, then what we are looking at is what you are saying or what you want to say, the message. But of course, it will help kung tama rin yung grammar mo, kung tama yung pag ano mo, diba? So it will also help, but the students can do that. And then also, make sure that you make clear your course policies. Diba? Hindi pwede yung magre-ridicule or hindi mo pwede, walang bastusan. Netiquette. We have to emphasize netiquette. And you have to tell your students, kapag ka ikaw ay bastos sa klase, tatanggalin kita. Parang, para rin lang nagpapalabas tayo sa classroom, di ba? Ginagawa yun ng mga teachers. Kapag magulo ka sa classroom, out ka muna. Madali rin gawin yan sa online discussion. Pwede mong muna yan, palabasin muna kung siya hindi sumusunod ng netiquette. So, ang advice nga natin sa mga teachers natin, sa simula pa lang, sa start pa lang ng klase, hindi pa nag-start yung klase, lay down the rules. Ano ba yung mga rules mo sa klase mo? So, strictly follow the netiquette. Show respect. Show respect to your classmates. Hindi yan. And whatever discussion that will happen in the class, it will be in the context na pinag-uusapan ay lesson. At kung magkakaiba kayo ng perspective, we have to respect the perspective of all learners. May iba pa yan kung meron pa kayong mga cultural differences, 'di ba? Kailangan ma-emphasize din natin 'yon na there has to be the respect for cultural diversity. Kung merong mga iba-ibang religion, for instance, may mga iba-ibang religion kasi lalo tayo sa public school, 'di ba? May mga iba-ibang yan, ganyan. So, we also have to emphasize in the same way that we are emphasizing it in the classroom teaching, we also have to do the same in online instruction. Yung mga magbubuli dyan, pinaparusahan din yan. So, we have to emphasize those policies sa klase natin, online class.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mel. Thank you, Dr. Romel. Question from Julius Neil Piala. Thanks, Ma'am Mel, for sharing the best practices of UPOU. What do you think are some ways that teachers can encourage students with mental health challenges or struggles to be more involved in the class activities?
Si Julius, I think estudyante yan ng OU. I mean, if I recall correctly, familiar yung pangalan mo sa akin. Biglang ganun, pagka kasi yung estudyante ay may mga mental health challenges, usually we really have to deal with them properly, they also have to have some kind of self-disclosure para alam din natin Sometimes it's not just us who will be handling it. Baka kailangan katulong natin yung guidance counselor natin, or if they are seeking medical assistance, we should also know. Pag minsan, we give them allowance as well. Halimbawa, in terms of deadlines of submission, kapag ka sinabi nila na may struggle sila sa ganito, etc., ganyan. Sa UPOU, maraming ganyan talaga. So what we, karamihan sa kanila, nagsiself-disclose naman, and the teachers are giving them some flexibilities in terms of learning activities. And if necessary, we also give them the option on what to do but at the same time yung mga learning outcomes ma-achieve din nila. Mas inclusive nga kung online eh, 'di ba? Kasi we can have this personalized path for them na hindi naman sila maiiwan when kapag ang usapan na ay learning outcomes, but you can give them a different set of activities, pero not necessarily na dini-disadvantage mo sila. So ako ang pagtingin ko dito, my own perspective here is mas inclusive ang online learning because you will be able to accommodate these different circumstances of your students. So flexibility ang sagot ko doon sa tanong mo.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mel. Question from Nej Garcia. What can be the best motivating factor for students that we need to consider first now that they are still having adjustments in this new normal?
Si Sir baka may sagot yan. How are we motivating our students?
Actually, doon sa motivation natin sa mga mag-aaral natin, dahil nga bago yung sistema ng pag-aaral, ang kauna-unahan nating ginagawa ngayon ay yung para bang nagkakaroon ng orientation, teacher to student, para mga informal classroom situation muna, na they are getting acquainted with what will be happening for the next 10 months for school year 2020-2021.
Tama, sir. Yes, tama. I agree with you. Give them that experience. Para hindi sila mawala, hindi sila yung anxiety nila ma-reduce. And ang sa akin is ano ba yung motivating factor? Bakit ba nag-aaral yung mga estudyante? Kasi syempre gusto nilang maka-advance kung next high school na sila or graduate na sila ng high school, magka-college na sila. That is a motivating factor for them. Instead of stopping, but we need to embrace this mode of instruction. The reason for studying is a motivating factor, both for them and for their parents or the guardians supervising them. So for me, that one. And of course, yung sinabi nga ni Sir, give them that kind of orientation para hindi sila so we can reduce the level of anxiety. That this is something that they can, yun nga, yung katulad ng sinabi natin kanina, that they can be successful at, and probably they will even enjoy doing it. You probably enjoy doing it. So yun yung ibigay natin. So hindi yan mahirap, something that you are familiar with and something that you will probably even enjoy doing. So yun, for me, give them that kind of experience on what to look forward to. Si Sir, mas practical si Sir. 10 buwan na talaga yung pinaghandaan niya eh. 10 buwan na. Hindi, so talagang sa kanya, we have to prepare. Whatever happens, ganito tayo for the next 10 months. Kung magkaroon man ng konting face-to-face towards the end of school year, siguro bonus na lang yon. And I think, hindi pa rin siya yung normal. Hindi pa rin siya yung normal. Baka once a week, if the situation will allow. Pero yung going back to what we were doing before the pandemic, I don't think it will happen within the school year. So si Sir, tama yung preparasyon niya, 10 buwan.
And should there be face-to-face by January, it will be 10 to 20 per classroom lang.
Yun nga, Sir.
Kakatakot. Agree po ako sa inyong dalawa po. Nung na-mention nyo po about orientation, kailangan siya kasi doon nyo na-establish yung ground. para mawala nga yung anxiety, yung fear ng mga lahat ng involved, both learners, teachers, and
Parents.
parents.
Parents, yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
all right. Question po from Ronald Go. Effective po ba ang online classes sa mga grade 1 pupils, especially for reading and writing? Or mas okay ang modular?
Sir, kayo po.
Ah, actually,
Yan ang pinag-aralan niya eh. Di ba, sir?
medyo meron kaming alinlangan dun sa online as well as the modular kasi ang kailangan sa mga batang yan ay naka-hands-on eh. Kaya medyo a combination of the two, may konting mga palapalabas and then may konting babasahin. Kailangan yung babasahin ng problema, we need to train the parents as well as the school, the home-based facilitator so that they will be able to assist our kindergarten and grade 1 learners, grade 1 and grade 2. Yung key stage 1 namin tinatawag, ang key stage 1 ay yung kinder to grade 3. Medyo iyon. Pero yung grade 3, pwede na yun sa modular at saka sa online.
Correct.
Pero yung kinder at saka yung grade 1 as well as the learner with special education needs, medyo iba yung approach.
Yung kanina, I think na-mention ni Sir Romel, yung working with the community, working with the LGUs, and working with probably like volunteers, the community. Na kung walang facilitator sa bahay, kung walang learning facilitator sa bahay who can supervise, especially nga yung mga levels na yon, yung kinder hanggang grade 3. Oo. Then yun yung pwedeng gawing mechanism or strategy na gagawin. Oo. So
palagi.
Yeah. Ako amazed din ako kasi I also observed this among my grandchildren. Hindi 3 years old, hindi pa nag-i-school, pero kaya nang bumasa ng letters, kayang bumasa ng numbers. Just di yung nag-ano lang siya, at English speaking. Kaya kasi yun yung pinapanood niya.
Napapanood yan.
Yun yung pinapanood niya eh. So probably that is I'm thinking about it. I was observing the children how they are doing it now. Na-amaze talaga ako. Hindi pa naman nagpo-formal schooling and then they remember I think marami makaka-relate sa atin dito ha. Kaya nila mag-recognize ng color as early as 2-year-old na bata. Yeah. Kaya mag-recognize ng color. Saan nila natutunan yon? Diba? Yeah. They haven't done any formal schooling yet. Ano lang, ito lang, media, itong ganito lang. YouTube, green, blue. Kung araw-araw nila naririnig yun. Siguro ako, yung reading, wala akong masyadong problema. Even counting, you can teach them how to count. I mean, using yung mga ganito na ano. Ang problem ko yung skills. Yun yung pinag-iisipan ko ngayon. Yung paano mo sila tuturuan magsulat. Diba?
Mahirap. Mahirap. Pero yun nga, it will be a collaborative effort ng mga volunteer facilitators, the parents, and the teachers. Kaya lang bawal naman yung parito yung teacher mula sa isang bahay papunta sa isang bahay o kaya yung bata pupunta sa school ay bawal pa rin naman. Yes. Kaya medyo challenge talaga. But I think we can still survive doon sa mga paghahandang ginagawa naman.
Exactly. Ang sinabi nila when we started this remote instruction, we really have to also prioritize ano ba yung kailangang unang maituro ng bata. Mm-hmm. Ano ba yung goal natin? Kapag kinder ito, ano yung goal natin sa isang kinder na estudyante? So we have to also rank or prioritize anong ituturo natin sa kanila para hindi rin ma-overwhelm yung mga bata. So
that's why DepEd identified the most essential learning competencies.
Yes.
Mayroon kaming MELC. From the thousands of competencies, it is trimmed down to I think 500 plus or something that yun na lang yung talagang mga basic na ituturo nila.
Yes. Tama, sir. So, narinig ko rin yung MELC, MELC na yan. Oo. So yun. At this grade level, ano yung importante? Diba? Yeah. Na maibigay natin sa kanila. Ang importante kasi they continue learning. Diba, sir, yung learning continuity plan ng DepEd?
Yeah.
Yes. The important is they will continue learning. They will learn something even during the time of pandemic. yun yung ini-stress ng learning continuity plan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. For Dr. Mel, you mentioned about the 15 minutes synchronous discussion with the online learners.
I agree with
But at present, DepEd has maximum of 2 hours per day for the grade 6.
you.
Do you think this is too much?
Yun pong 15 minutes, yun po ay dun sa mga lecture sessions. I mean,
Lecture
halimbawa,
lang.
magle-lecture ako on a specific subject. Um, ang or a specific topic. Yung lesson natin. Di ba pagka tayo nagpi-prepare, kapag nagmi-meeting tayo sa klase natin, meron tayong ano yung input natin doon sa lesson. So yun po yung sinasabi ko na let us limit it to 15 minutes na
15
magle-lecture
minutes.
tayo. Oo.
The instructions,
Oo, yeah.
directions, and something to read. And then, self-paced na yung pag-aaral.
Ganon. So ito po sigurong 2 hours per day na naka sa DepEd for grade 6, baka naman po ito ay iba't
Proper.
baka, hindi po kaya ito iba't ibang subject. Baka si Sir masasagot to, iba't ibang subject, hours.
Hindi naman, actually, 60 minutes supposed to be yung per subject. Ay hindi naman talaga ganun katagal yung magiging i-expose sila dun sa online. May mga ganun din, yung nga sinasabi ko kanina, you give the instruction or direction for something to do, and then afterwards, meron naman silang module na titingnan, o kaya yung nasa online, asynchronous na nasa online, doon sila magbabasa kung kailan yung available na oras nila. Pero, yun nga, supposed to be, dapat ay ma-comply pa rin nila yung minimum time requirement for a specific subject.
Oo, yun siguro yun. Pero hindi naman for the 2 or for the 60 minutes halimbawa ay magle-lecture ka na magle-lecture.
That cannot be.
So, ang ano doon is there are other activities. Yun nga yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, you can ask them to work together as pair, as group, ganyan. Meron sila mga activities na gagawin. Pwede sila yung magsalita doon, di ba? So you ask them to do the learning activities during that period. Diba? So, hindi yung lecture, yung sinasabi ko na 15 minutes lecture session, yung magle-lecture yung teacher. Kasi pag nag-lecture ka ng 2 oras, kahit nga ako pag nag-lecture ako ng 2 oras,
Nakaka-board yun. At nakakapagod. Both sa listener at saka sa lecturer.
So yun po yun. And I think the reason for this is we also want to ensure na yung mga estudyante natin will be on track. 'Di ba? Yung kapag lagi natin silang makakausap natin sila every day for instance or every other day, alam natin na may nakikip track din natin na napupuwersa yung mga estudyante natin to do the activities with us. Ganon. Kasi that is also a recommendation na ginawa rin namin para naka-schedule din. Ang ano nga namin, ang suggestion nga namin ngayon, kung every day i-establish mo yung routine ng mga bata, 'di ba? Hindi kung ang klase nila ay magi-start ng 8:00, kailangan they have to wake up probably at 6 o'clock, they have to be ready pagdating na para pumapasok din sa school na pagdating na ganitong oras ready na sila to attend to their classes for instance. Yun yung iba sinasabi namin, pagpalitin niyo rin ng damit kunwari papasok din sila, 'di ba? Yung ready rin sila to para they can have that sense na yung feeling nila na ito, seryoso to, hindi ako maglalaro, magkaklase ako, ganyan. At pwede silang mag-on cam, pwede ipakita mo rin yung mga mukha nila kapag nagsisynchronous sessions kayo. So, may mga ganun tayong strategy para matulungan natin yung mga bata, especially mga bata. Ganun.
Okay. I think this is a question for me. Good PM po. Is there a certain program of PLDT specially designed for those learners who really wanted to go online but cannot access the online courses due to having lower internet connection at all? So first, we've mentioned in the beginning of this session, or for every session that we have, I think for offline learners, PLDT Infoteach outreach program can accommodate this because we have, apart from the online training, we have yung printed modules that we equip our trainers, care of course, our partner UPOU. But for this situation that we have, we have actually an ongoing um, evaluation and planning on how we will go about this. That's why we're actually right now we're doing this. We're doing this webinar series, prioritizing our learners and our teachers to enable them. So we will send you, however, we'll send you the details, more details about this, our flagship program kay Mr. Selfren de la Peña. We'll send you that directly na lang po. So from Nora Damasco, hindi po ba mahihirapan ng mga parents or guardians to assist their children in the new normal situation of education? Hindi need po ba nila mag-train din po?
Yeah.
Paano po mga busy parents and guardians na gabi na po umuwi? So actually, before our speakers answer this, would like to invite you, Miss Damasco, to join our session 8 kasi it's about supporting the online learners for parents and guardians. This is on August 18 at 2 p.m. So
Yeah.
Dr. Romel,
Uh,
may,
uh,
Any
there
Dr.
will be orientation for parents,
mm,
as parents and as facilitator of learners dun sa mga sa online at saka sa modular learning. And then, should there be instances na talaga may trabaho sila, yun yung concern namin kung paano kami kukuha ng mga magiging facilitators dun sa kanilang mga anak. Kaya lamang ang problema, another concern na nag-a-arise doon, papayag ba yung magulang na may pupuntang ibang tao dun sa bahay nila kung sila ay nasa trabaho? So something like that. So ang SDO Cavite Province, ang ginawa namin part of the learning continuity plan of the schools ay mag-provide sila ng para bang yung handbook o manual na gagamitin para iyon yung magiging guide ng kung sino man yung maiiwan sa bahay na mag-a-assist dun sa ating mga learners. Tapos, bukod dun sa manual na iyon, open 24/7 ang mga cellphone ng teacher should there be queries or difficulties in the modules or dun sa activities na ginagawa ng mga bata.
Yeah.
Para sila yung mag-a-assist, yung teacher mismo.
Yeah. So yun po.
alright.
I think that answers the question.
So we have 1 minute to go. Have there been studies which support that online learning is effective for learners from Ronald Go?
Bago pa nating mararanasan to sa mga public schools sa Pilipinas. So we are benchmarking on its success sa other part of the world. So hopefully it will also yield positive results as we embrace towards this online learning dito sa ating mga new normal. Siguro ang Open University ng UP baka successful sila, di ba? Doon sa kanilang distance learning na ginagawa.
Actually, may mga studies naman pong ginawa or even before ang OU kasi nga laging ganito yung nakukuha naming tanong comparing the face-to-face or classroom instruction with online learning. Ang lagi pong naming sagot dito is kapag ka na-design ng maayos ang mga kurso for online learning, it can even be better than a classroom instruction that is poorly designed. Kung hindi maganda yung pagtuturo ng teacher, 'di ba? Kahit nasa classroom po 'yan, hindi po talaga
the quality spells the difference.
And then ang lagi po rin namin sinasabi, technology on the hands of a very good teacher, a good teacher can be transformational because you have the whole internet as your library and your classroom.
Yeah.
So, kung madidesign ng mga teachers ng maayos ang kanilang mga kurso, then online learning can really be very effective.
Okay. All right. I guess this is the last question. What online platforms can you suggest so that we could provide learners with self-paced online learning courses?
Merong DepEd Commons,
Yes.
ang DepEd. Tapos yun nga, we are training the teachers to use the Google Classroom and then the Moodle. Meron din Google Meet. Yun yung mga platforms na pwede. Tapos, Pag self-paced kasi, dapat nandun yung mga materials na pwedeng basahin ng mga bata. Ang Google Meet pwedeng attach ng materials doon. Ang Classroom lalo, mas helpful yung Google Classroom. Tapos yung DepEd Commons naman, nandun naman yung mga learning materials din natin na by grade level, by subjects nandun.
Yes. Oo. So nakalagay, yun nga, nasa yung for those who are at the basic ed, DepEd Commons, ang dami ng resources doon. Kahit nga yung mga gamified
Yeah.
materials, yes, nandun na. And then different levels, you can download the materials if you want to do the self-paced learning. For those who are watching us at the higher ed, ang CHED po ay meron din, yung Philippine CHED Connect. Pwede nyo rin pong puntahan yon. May mga senior din yung mga universities na mga resources which they develop and which can provide resources. And then, napakadami din po ng mga platforms for open educational resources will be able to do it. And
Yeah.
sure that we can really ensure that our students will continue learning when the school, when the academic year opens this August. So ako, confident ako. Laging sinasabi, are we ready for it? Maaring we are not ready, but I'm sure we will be able to cope.
Yeah.
To cope with
We
it.
may be not 100% ready, but surely we will deliver it.
We will deliver. I like that. I think that's the term. We will deliver it. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And again, may mga sessions pa po tayong susunod. We may be able to discuss all the other challenges. And we hope to see you in our next session. So maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mel. Dr. Romel, thank you so much for your time. I hope our viewers had a worthwhile and insightful afternoon. Just quickly lang po, recap lang po for some quick takeaways from the presentation of Dr. Romel as well as from the presentation of Dr. Mel. Regarding the open and constant communication and consultation with our learners. Yun yung pinaka-importante kasi para pag consistent po tayo na ikipag-communicate sa ating mga learners as well as yung learner to the teacher, buhay po yung ano natin, yung engagement natin. And we feel, actually both ends yan, magiging connected tayong dalawa. And then from the presentation of Dr. Mel, make your presentations shorter, at least 10 to 15 minutes at the maximum na yon. And then of course, build a sense of community. Make your learning social. Make sure that they are connected towards their classmates and towards you, the teachers. Get to know them and let them know you, or let them know each other, yung mga classmates nila. And then leave space and time for your students to socialize. Give a sense of ownership. Plan for delivery, diversity, invite experts or resource speakers. Be a storyteller. Update course content related to the current issues and events. So para maging relevant po yung current na tinuturo doon sa current na sitwasyon na meron natin. Encourage accountability by emphasizing responsibility, lalong-lalo na sa mga bata. Kailangan natin establish yung responsibility as early as this age. Encourage or help students feel like they can succeed, of course, and reward this success. Communicate in multiple formats, be clear, especially, and be creative. Provide active learning opportunities. Kung merong active playing, meron ding active learning. So, nakaka-relate dyan yung generation ko po. So, yung real play, kailangan may real learning din. Away from the computers, in short. So, provide feedback also, be accessible, be responsive. Kailangan ready kayong sumagot. Available yung mga email address, cellphone number, lahat. Para in any case na may kailangan yung mga estudyante natin na madaling na-access kayo. And then, of course, add interactive activities. Gusto ko yung Spotify playlist as part of the learning activity. And then students need to feel connected, make the learner enjoy. do what they're doing and enjoy what they're doing or embrace the learning journey. Of course, na-mention nga kanina ni Dr. Romel, we will make the presentation available for you, Mr. Eric Pajarito. And yung Infoteach po, we will send to Mr. or Miss De La Peña po. All right. So quick ano lang po before we end on the issuance of certificates. Indicate the name and the evaluation. Kailangan magkapareho po yung written. Kung ano po yung nilalagay natin sa evaluation, yun din po yung name na lalabas sa certificate. So kailangan correct spelling, complete po yung name natin doon. So please don't forget to evaluate this event and answer the questions. The online evaluation form will start receiving responses right after this event and will be available within the next 6 hours. As shown in the screen, you may scan the QR code or go to bit.ly site indicated. The certificates will automatically be sent to those who completed their evaluation forms and were able to answer 7 out of 10 questions po. All right. So thank you so much. Invite ko po kayo sa next session natin. See you again online on August 5, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Thank you so much.